You have one unheard message. First unheard message sent yesterday at 7:15 p.m.
Hey, Jordan, it's Rich from the auto auction. I've heard you got a new vehicle assessment tool that's setting a new standard for accuracy. I'm eager to learn some more. Can you meet me at the gate?
I'm Rich Levene, and this is Meet Me at the Gate, where we're not just talking theory, we're tackling real-world problems head-on, driving solutions that supercharge productivity and team dynamics. Every episode is a journey towards improvement, empowering you, the manager, to lead with innovation and confidence. Join us to transform everyday roadblocks into highways for success.
It's really good to see you, Jordan. I saw that you were visiting a store the other day. You wrote about visiting a store. How was that?
It was a rental car company, and we've launched a pilot with them for incremental damage.
Mm-hmm.
So we were, if we tested under the worst possible conditions, it was driving rain. They didn't have an awning. Cars were covered with water and just back from rental. Yeah, so the front of the cars were caked up with bugs and whatnot. But the tool worked. I'm like, holy.
So tell us about the tool. What kind of tool? What were you using? A garden hose, a rake?
yeah. A snow brush.
What's that?
It's a company I work for, so ClickIns.
ClickIns.
So
tell us about it.
Sure.
Give us the 411.
It is a visual intelligence platform that uses generative AI. One of my favorite things to say, and probably the first time somebody's heard that in the last year, right? Uses generative AI and photogrammetry to truly cull out the damages on the surface of a vehicle. Honestly, they've been doing R&D for 10 years, based in Israel. We're moving the headquarters to Kansas City. We stood up the office there in the past couple of weeks. I got to tell you, I'm a little shocked at how hungry the industry is for the solution.
And it's mobile. That's what I like about it. It's mobile.
It works from any smartphone or tablet, and that's for what this rental agency was using it for. It's perfect because we have the comparative report that shows check out and check in and shows the differences. And look, anybody that tells you their AI is 99% accurate or whatever is lying. Really, the truth of it is, it's like appraising cars or buying cars. Every car stands on its own, and certain cars pose certain challenges based on where they're sitting, based on the weather, based on the color of the car, and just any of a myriad of things, right? So it worked really well. You have moments of validation, and that was one of them. And where the COO of this group said, "Holy crap! It saw that scratch behind all that water," and I said, "Holy crap! That's great."
What did you really say?
Well, I mean, I used a different 4-letter expletive, but that's another story. Probably another podcast too, right?
This is what you call mobile, basically AI detection, damage, inspection. Is that right?
Yeah, 100%.
What was the name of the company again?
It's ClickIns. CLICK-INS.
Click, like mouse,
Yeah,
right?
Click. Oh, CO. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
Click.
CLICK-INS.
ClickIns. Okay.
I believe it was January. There was a announcement in automotive remarketing that if anybody's been on the open lane platforms, specifically the D2D space, they use our AI damage assistant, and the damage overlays on those cars is actually our technology.
So you guys they're moving. They're already moving.
Yeah.
So what's the difference? So one of the questions I've got is, like, you've heard of UVI, Black Widow.
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference between a stationary versus a mobile?
I mean, that's a good question. Stationary requires obviously hardware. It requires dedicated space, and it's not mobile. They do very good jobs, and one of the companies you mentioned is a partner of ours. I drove my wife's car through their machine at one of the places, one of their stores here in Indy, and I was impressed. It's great technology. I think where my mind went And this is something been heavily focused on like the last, my whole career, because it started at CarMax 20 some odd years ago, is look, whoever wins in the customer's driveway is gonna win the game.
That's right.
And if you educate, the education process is not just for the dealer, it's for the consumer too, right? And I think CarMax has been playing that long game for a long time. They are elite at what they do. They really are. And they're just, and let's just say in the last 5-6 years, I think Carvana woke the sleeping giant, because CarMax's process hadn't been really challenged up until that point, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Carvana explodes on the scene, and CarMax says, "Oh, geez, we need to build up our online presence." So they go out and they buy Edmunds, right? They buy Edmunds for the content, right? Because now they have all this. They'll rise organically because they have all the content for all the vehicle descriptions and whatnot. Obviously, the traffic through that tool, but they're also building out their buying off the street process and taking it online. And I know there's parameters around it right now, but if CarMax never surprises me with how innovative they are. They have great people that work there. Still, a lot of my good friends work there. Bill actually hired me 20 some odd years ago. I think he'd rethink that now, but I learned a ton. Like that's where I got my mind for the car business.
Mm-hmm.
Called me out of the blue. I don't know if I answered your question. I babbled for like 5 minutes.
Well, it sounds like there's a place for either or, depending on the operation, right?
Yeah,
is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair. I think my point is there's a place for both of them, right? And I think from a portability standpoint, you have to be, or for any business standpoint, you got to be multiple, and you got to meet the customer where they want to meet you, and that's not just in sales, but in service too, and giving them the ability to do things from their driveway or from work or from a collision scene or all these places. If you're a dealer group that has collision centers, it's important to load balance. You want to get the most accurate information you can at the point of collision, and that information goes back to the store. And if you have 3 or 4 locations, you can route that customer to the place that's going to move them and shorten the cycle times for all the stores instead of stacking up one of the stores, right? There's any number of use cases for being mobile. And the fact we'll white label the technology behind the scenes. Like, I think the last thing we want to do is affect workflows. When I look at, there's some tremendous products out there right now, but it's really, really hard to stand up a tool next to the legacy players who are in there in 6 or 7 places. It makes more sense to partner than it does trying to stand up a sales team that's trying to upset 6 or 7 processes that have been in place for 5 years, right? So I think you got to be multiple, right? And you got to be agile, and you got to empower your customer.
So when you say empower your customer, are you saying like your technology is now in the hands of Joe Retail? It
can be. It can be B2C. It can be B2B2C.
Okay.
And it's a simple workflow.
Yeah. Okay.
You can take a selfie. You can take a picture. We train on site. I have a 5 weeks 5 weeks of doing it, but 25 years of photographing cars and being around cars. We can get somebody trained in 15 minutes. It takes them 2 or 3 cars to figure out all the nuances, and after that, it takes them about a minute and a half to go soup to nuts and get the condition report.
Is it wireframe? So like 4 corner where you hold the phone and it basically tells you where to hold it, like that?
Yeah. You turn it on its side. It's a web app, so it's a walkthrough, and the walkthrough is completely configurable based on what you want to capture. You can, like, if certain things are important in certain areas, right? Like in the South, undercarriage rust, outside of Florida in the winter isn't prevalent, right? You can toggle certain features on and off at different times of the year, right? Or every month. It doesn't matter, right? So if you called us and said, "Hey, I want to add these 3 things to the workflow," that's easy.
What's kind of a standard workflow, or kind of maybe?
Yeah, it's the 8 collision points. So fenders, quarters, the sides, deck lid, if there's deck lid, tailgate, hood, sometimes the roof, interior. Some people like taking pictures of the tires and wheels, odo. But what I see most of all is standard eight collision points, and a picture of the VIN plate or the odometer. It's typically what I see, and that's how people are used to buying. Like when dealers are buying at auction, they're used to seeing and have been let's just say that's how they learn to buy, by looking at these condition reports. So when we map the damage and actually segment the damage on the car and color code it, they know exactly what they're looking at. So, and our condition report populates that automatically. So they don't have to look at a damage line and then try to find it and zoom in on the picture. We highlight the damage on a car.
Jordan, I and Rich, you've heard me say this, as always, Ty. I've always said that in the lane, it's important to be at the speed or faster of the auctioneer to put a value on a vehicle. It sounds like that if I was in the lane and I was using your tool, not only could I get a valuation, but I could also get a true assessment of the condition of that vehicle if I did a walk around a little fast on it.
Yeah, I mean, when they're walking the sale, pre-sale, and if they're even going anymore, right? And the car doesn't have a condition report, they can do a quick rundown on the car itself. And I will tell you, it is amazing, because AI, and it's not just us, but it's the segment, right? It's amazing in what it can do. It's not AI. It's photogrammetry. It's what the camera can see, because the camera doesn't get tired. The camera doesn't get, their eyes don't get fatigued, or they're not sour because the last one of these they bought, they lost $4,000 on. It's all the things, right? It's just so consistent, and it's so easy.
Mm-hmm.
It's not perfect, but it can call out things that really, really can't be seen. So I'm amazed at how far we've come in 5 weeks, and it will be a completely different company in the next 3 months. So when I say that, the response I've gotten from the industry is a little overwhelming, and
it's awesome.
The VC companies we speak with say, you guys are absolutely on the right track. And that's good to hear. Validation of any kind is good to hear, but having some of the bigger names in PC tell you that feels good. Now we just have to execute, because and I know the technology's good. We just need to sync up with product roadmaps and everything else, and get the product rolled out.
So let's go back real quick. So let's say all four of us have your app on our phone, and we're all looking at the same vehicle, and we all snap it. How much variation is there from person to person using your app? Because I know from human beings, if we all four of us write it down, it's going to become a crazy CR, right?
Right.
Ty could write it as a 4.5. I might write it as a 2.9. Jordan, you're going to be in the middle, and Paul, who knows where you're at, but we're going to be all over the board.
Yeah.
It's a true story.
I think about, when you get those phone calls, when we used to see our cars, when I worked
at where? No.
Oh, no, I know, but okay. I worked at a big auction company. Well, man, this is a 4.2 at DFW. And I said, well, in Philadelphia, it's $50,
True story.
But it's funny. So like what you're talking about, variances. No two condition reports are exactly alike, because we're all different heights. We're not all holding it at the same level, and light is constantly changing, right? And it depends on where you take the picture. So we send out best practices. I think the best practice is to hold it. We don't have wireframes inside of our photo collection process, because it's hard to line up. We just, we take the front fender, and as we move around the car like you'd walk around any car, it tells you in almost real time if it's a good picture, right? And it's, you take the first picture and you move on to the second, and it's working in the background, and it'll stick to you if the picture doesn't jive. So I think the question is, best practice is to hold it like a door handle level. Obviously not when you're taking a picture of the roof, but that's generally best practice, so it can get straight on, and you're not inferring sunlight down or any of the other things. There might be a little variance, but it's pretty consistent, man.
So let's talk about dollars or damage lines or inches, dents, dings. So when we're all four riding them, even though we're at different angles, different heights, different paces, it's still going to, I guess what I'm asking is, if there's a 6-inch dent on the door, how many times out of the 4 times we all go around is it going to find that 6-inch dent? Is it going to hit it almost every time within like really close?
Yeah.
Versus a human being walks around it, and like you said, fatigue. So Ty might be more tired than me, and it might be an 8-inch dent for Ty, and it's 7 inches for me. And Jordan, you're on your game, and it's a 6-inch dent.
Right.
Yeah. I would tell you it's going to catch it most of the time. And it's remarkably consistent. One of the things we caught quite a bit, because where we were at in the country, they travel all over the Midwest and into the plains and whatnot, so they get a lot of hail. It was picking up hail that I couldn't even see until I got basically on top of the car to look at it. And I don't know what kind of voodoo or witchcraft they use behind the scenes. I'd love to tell you I'm some AI aficionado, but I'm not. I'm just a freaking car guy, right? And walked a million cars. It's remarkably consistent.
All right.
And it works.
It's remarkably consistent. Is it accurate?
Yes. And like I said, nothing's 100% accurate.
But it's way more accurate than a traditional CR.
Right.
Depends on who's writing it.
Well, explain that. Like, what do you mean depends on who's writing it? I'm not saying the humans, but you using your technology.
Going back to the place I used to work, put it that way, you had different levels of CR writers.
Okay.
And they were quarantined to do certain types of inventory at the auction. Like when you get your factory cars and your fleet lease and your bank cars and all that, you handle those with kid gloves, right? And put your best on them because you want to keep those buyers happy, because those are the cars that fill the auction, right? And everybody else cuts their teeth, unfortunately, on dealer cars, because they might come in a day before, the night before, and there's this mad rush to get them registered and on spot and washed and all the things. I would tell you that it is really, really hard to replicate what we do in the same amount of time. And the average CR takes a seasoned, let's just say it's like a 2022 off-lease car. There's probably not going to be a whole lot on that car that you need to write up, but it's still going to take the inspector 10 or 15 minutes, right? That's just the reality. You can shoot inside and out and have an actionable CR in your hands in about 2 minutes with our technology.
And if you, on a scale of 1 to 10, how accurate is that CR?
I mean, it's
a 10.
Nothing's 10. Nothing.
9.9.
I would tell you some of the numbers I've heard internally, because when we built this, it was built for insurance companies, and it was built to prevent insurance fraud and facilitate smart repairs. The measurements we show on the car are inches or centimeters from the seams to help insurance companies in the repair-replace discussion. They want to repair it. They don't want to replace it. So that's how it's built. So it's north of 90%.
Perfect, which is awesome. So now we've got a consistent CR. We've got an accurate CR. Ty, what am I missing?
T. Is it transparent?
Yeah.
Is it? Bam.
Yeah.
And that is our recipe for building trust.
Yeah.
So now you got consistency, accuracy, and transparency. You can put that in any product you have, and you start building up trust. What happens? People start trusting you. They start buying from you.
Mm-hmm.
Bingo. We
have a partner that launched this in around a quarter of development time, so 3 months, and has nationwide inspectors. They didn't roll out any training to these inspectors, and they didn't get one complaint.
Wow. That's huge.
Incredible.
Paul, you love data, right? You're a data guy?
Sir. Paul's data.
So I'm just curious, is there any data here that you're really interested in this conversation?
Once we start collecting, we do want to have condition reports with the vehicles that are running through the auctions, because then we can actually calculate the difference on those condition reports instead of just leaving it up to the determination of the end user. We could say, this is the CR says this is a 4, this should be moved over to a clean category. Or if it's a 2, it needs to be more rough. And we can actually guide in that direction if we have that kind of an accurate data data set for those vehicles.
What if we step back and you've got the data from Jordan, from his AI technology, and you've got your book values based off of 98% of the wholesale data through auctions. So now we got great data. We got great information what cars are bringing. We got great information on what the condition of the car is. Instead of saying, hey, we think this car's a 4.0 or we think this car's a 3.5, why don't you say, here's the data, here's the damage on his report, how much dollar damage is a fix at whatever you plug in as the owner of the app. Say maybe my shop rate's $100 an hour. You plug it in. Hey, based on this condition report, here's market value of a clean car. It's going to cost you $2,000 to recon this car. Now you, Mr. Buyer, you go make your decision on how much you want to spend based on the two pieces of information you have. One, value, and two is the damage. Versus you saying a 4. Now you eliminate, $50, Philadelphia. I can make that a 4.0 for you.
Right. So to your point, the reconditioning is one of the key ingredients, what I call the secret sauce of the large dealer groups, because they can leverage economies of scale that a small local dealer can't. They can buy tires to replace at far significantly less than a single point dealer or even just a 2 or 3 point dealer group can. So their cost to recondition a vehicle to a better standard is less. So you're offering them that option to be able to determine what my reconditioning standards are. And if it's a higher condition grade vehicle, my overall cost to get that vehicle to frontline ready is less expensive. So I could afford to pay more if I'm a smaller mom and pop store.
I don't think we have transparency right now in auto grades. Just my opinion. No one has laid out, here is what it takes to be a 3.0. That seems to be an average car. What's an average car? We can go around and ask everybody on this podcast right now, what is an average car? And we're all going to come up with completely different answers. Yeah. We're never going to come up. We do know what a 0 is, almost. And we do know what we know what a 5 is. And is there such a thing as a 5? After you load it on Ty's truck, so it leaves the manufacturer, you put it on Ty's truck, a part of the wrap came off and now it's got scratches on it and it shows up brand new in your yard, no miles, the title's never been turned, it's still on MSO. Is that a 5.0? See? But now let's get rid of the subjectivity or get rid of the objectivity and say, okay, here's this car. It retailed brand new. We got all Paul's data. We know a 2-year-old. Let's use this 22 off lease return. It's got 20,000 miles on it, 2 years old, a little under average. And here's the damage on it. Oh, by the way, it's got a dent in the door from a shopping cart. It's whatever his AI says it is. It's this many centimeters away from the scene. Now you, Mr. Dealer, you're the expert buyer. You go figure out what you want to spend on that car because you got 2 pieces of information to go do that. That's my opinion.
Sounds like you really don't like the condition ratings. Like you got a problem with that.
It's not transparent. You're not building up any trust. How do I know it's accurate? How do I know it's consistent? It doesn't fit my recipe.
Well, it causes all kinds of problems in arbitration too, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So now, Paul and Jordan, I'm curious to hear how you guys feel about ratings, condition report. Is that what we're calling it, ratings? Am I right?
It's auto grade.
Auto grade, sorry.
But I like ratings. This one's a PG-13. Cars are. This car smells like it might be. Never will go there.
Ratings, yeah. It's almost like it just gives somebody something to complain about. But I am curious. What do you think, Jordan?
I think I'll go back to what I said in the beginning. Every car should stand on its own, and I think it's just one in many sortable features that disqualifies cars that would meet your criteria.
Right.
And I think I understand why it was done. Get it. I do think that buyers will say, I don't buy anything below 4.0. Well, you have 3.9s and 3.8s and 3.7s that fit your criteria. In some cases, better than the 4.1, 4.0 cars. But you're not seeing them because you set your criteria only to look at 4.0 and above. I think it's narrowed the buying channel for buyers in some cases that just have these stringent guidelines. And COVID happened and cars dried up, and I think people probably opened up their parameters a little more and took some risk on some edgy stuff. But I love to tell you that I have the answer, but that's just my thought. Like I think I understand the rationale, but I also think every car should stand on its own. I really do.
here's a piece I love. So let's take the idea I gave where we use Paul's data from Black Book and what a car value is worth. And you pick what you decide which one you want to grab. And Paul, you've got a lot of categories all the way from clean down to rough, right?
We got extra clean.
Okay, extra clean. So you pick your category. So you as a buyer, Ty, you get to pick you get to pick your category. And then we use Jordan's data on how much damage is on there. Instead of sorting it and saying, hey, I want everything above a 4.0, you say you plug in your hourly rate, or if we figure out whatever that formula is, and say, look, I don't want to spend any more than $2,500 in recon. Show me all the cars that fit that category. That'd be a hell of a lot better filter than saying, oh, I don't want it. It's got to be 4.0 or higher. Because like you said, Jordan, now you're going to lose a 3.7s, 3.8s. And I'll give you an example. And this is a real world example that happened today. I get a phone call from a fleet customer. Calls me up, says, hey, Rich, you got a van out on your lot. You wrote a CR on. I said, yeah, what can I help you with? Well, I got some mixed information came through the system. So what do you got? Well, it's got 2 damage lines, $400, and it says it's a 3.9. But it gave me a second figure that says it's a 2.6. What's the car? So now I've got to go back and figure out, and we're dissecting, trying to figure out how the system came up with 2 scores on that car. Did a user accidentally touch a button somewhere? Did they check a box somewhere that said it's missing a key? I don't know. But now I got a problem to go figure out. Now, had we just left that as a damage and said, here's a picture of the car, here's the damage lines, bam, go with it, they'd be like, oh, $400 damage. Move on. No one would ever question me and would save all those headaches. So
you're hearing from your customers that the condition grade is impacting their decision making instead of their actual true cost to frontline rate, which is what they should be considering.
Yes. Yeah. It's impacting their business in a negative way. So how much do we buy this car back from our third party? What are we going to give for him? Oh, I know the customer's going to call and say, because I got to share the CR with him. He's going to want to know why is the same auction say it's a 2.9 and a 4 point, or whatever it was, 3.9 and a 2.6. How can we be 1.5 points off on one CR? But here we are, 2 damage lines.
What were the damage lines?
What's that?
What were the damage lines? Do you remember?
No, I don't. I'd have to go back and look at them. A couple of dents and panels. It was nothing big. I remember looking at the picture. I pulled up the picture. I scrolled through all the pictures because I was inside of a different system. I was in our computer. I wasn't in the CR because I wanted to see what was coming over, and I couldn't find it. But I went through all the pictures. I'm like, dang, this is a clean little van.
This slides into, is it Mitchell book or Mitchell? There's some mechanic flag hours. What's that book called?
There's Mitchell. There's Motor, which is a Hearst company.
The SPNL, Service Parts and Labor Guides.
Okay, so if we were to go away with auto grade and maybe kind of lean towards what Rich is talking about, where Jordan has his technology, it takes the picture, it shows the fenders on the 2022 Ford Taurus is dented and probably should just be replaced. If you're plugged into the Mitchell or the SL, what was it again, Paul?
Service Parts and Labor Guides.
Service Parts and Labor Guide. It kicks out numbers for replacing that automatically. Is that out there?
It's out there. It's expensive.
Big money? Big money for the developer or big money for...
No, there's some products out there that do this. And they've had a kind of the kung fu grip on the industry for a long time. And that's one of the reasons I'm here.
All right. So I help transport guys. I got rid of my trucks, but I still help transport guys. So I was fortunate enough, it sounds crazy, like who would be excited about jumping in a semi, driving 100 miles down the road, loading up 9 cars and coming back. Well, I was super excited. And the reason I was excited was because there's things that have changed since I got rid of my trucks. And one of these changes is this technology. So I haven't got to personally touch it. So as we're doing this, I'm like, give me the phone. What are we doing? Taking pictures. You got to open up this app, Super Dispatch. And you take it over, push this button. Then you get to the car, and it has the wire frame. And you stand on the corner, and there it is. You just click, next, click, 4, and you're around it. Now, where Rich was going that I get upset about is when a transport guy has to go to the auction, and he has to get a paper gate pass, and write on the back of the paper gate pass what he just took pictures of. Yeah. And it usually takes longer to get the gate pass and write on the back what's wrong with the car than it does to just take pictures. So that's where I get a little upset.
I'm laughing because it's true, and I'm all in favor. How do we fix this gate pass problem, and how do we get the technology so we can get a real picture when it leaves? And if the technology that Jordan has works, it's like, okay, if you're using it as a carrier and I'm using it as an auction, and then we're even feeding it to Paul as Black Book, we're all looking at the same thing. Okay, when that car leaves, it should be very close, and as accurate and as consistent, as transparent as we discovered that this stuff is. Then now we can start trusting each other and we can start moving faster. The only thing we still got to solve, though, is how do we get rid of that paper gate pass?
Sounds like you're talking about a blockchain tokenized process where trust, verify, and each step is verified. Yep, that's right.
The challenge is, and what we need to come up with is figure out how do we make it. Blockchain to me sounds like a little too much. For crying out loud, we're going to start doing digital titles. Some states have already started. We're going to go to them in Texas in 2025. So now we can put a title as a digital thing, and we have to have a title to sell a car. Why do we still need a paper gate pass to get a car out the auction? Seriously. I mean, I'm the auction guy, and I'm even frustrated with it. I need to go into the front office, and you're going to have to go see Mary in the front office. And if Mary's not there, go talk to Jennifer. Jennifer's not there, maybe Katie's there. And if Katie's not there, maybe you can go to the back and maybe Sharon's in the back. And then get a gate pass and bring it out. Make sure you have it signed before you know, and make sure I got a copy of the check so I know you paid for it. And then I'll let you out the gate.
Oh, and I need a copy of your driver's license too. That's always my favorite.
I need front and back. Now, I'm going to say that saved me one time. True story.
I was thinking, okay, so it gets worse. So then to get to the transport guy to the auction to pick it up, well, how did that car get there in the first place? Did it come from the repo guy? And what pictures does he have? And by the way, now that we got Paul here, I haven't seen a market update forever, but I am curious, how are delinquencies today?
Through the roof. Yeah.
That'll be the next show. We're going to have to do another one.
Yeah.
Market update.
I'm putting, and I just finished putting the touches on it today.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I haven't been on LinkedIn as much as I usually am, but I do try to keep an eye out for your updates. I love them.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
I follow them too. I love them.
Yeah.
I love it.
So let's go back and help Jordan with the solution. So if Jordan's solution is put in at the time of repo, so the repo yard uses it, the transport that moves the car uses it, the auto auction uses it, and then the transporter that moves it away back to the dealer uses it. Oh, and maybe the dealer uses it to appraise the car somewhere. And we're all using that same piece of technology. I think got consistency, accuracy, transparency. Can we now trust each other?
Yeah.
Or do we still have to have this division? Oh, that's the repo guy. Nope, got to be the transporter. Oh, the auction screwed that up.
Well, think about the heavy dealer auctions. Biggest issue is timing of when the cars get there, and they show up the night before. If a dealer can pre-register cars for the auction where there's an online record and they show up and the pictures are already taken, and all you have to do at that point is verify the damage on the car and the odometer, what does that do for you? And that's 3 days out now. So those cars are getting online exposure and hopefully some retention lift from online bidders. Mm-hmm. I think that's where, I started at CarMax auctions, right? And that was as grassroots as it got. One lane, sell them all, no CRs, conditional announcements. But
as is.
Modified as is. If the transmission needs service, we write on the windshield, transmission needs service, and try to be as transparent as they could if there was an issue. And they still do this. They try to do what's right. Look, when you tell the truth, you got nothing to remember. I feel like they do that better than anybody out there, right? But I think there's a massive opportunity in giving dealers access to a pre-register tool and in allowing them to pre-register vehicles for your sale with pictures and conditional information, only to have that verified. It cuts down on the cycle times of your writers, and realistically, you could do it with some quasi untrained eyes. You don't need to go through the 4 levels of CR writing to do this. Mm-hmm. Right? Like I said, it's north of 90%. Sometimes it could be 82% because of bad lighting, bad conditions, but it's pretty regularly over 90%. I feel safe saying that. Like you're talking about with repo agents, right? When that car shows up and it's sitting in the impound lot, taking pictures of it, when that thing gets dispatched to whatever auction it's going to go to, right? they have a record of it, so they know what's going on. So can it be passed to the auction at that point? I think this is something going back to, we talked to Dennis Jones, right? We were talking to Dennis Jones about this 10 years ago. If an auction CR gets written, does it become transitive property? Can it migrate over here, and can it follow the car? So you can see a genesis of the CR. Could it become that? Yeah, it could. Marry what we do with VHR, like you talk to a standard buyer, right, at a dealership, and they're going to tell you, yep, bad Carfax, bad auto check, 7 to 10%, right? 7 to 10%, 7 to 12%, depending on what's on the history. But if you start actually detailing what was wrong with the car on that report, where they can turn it around and show the customer, that means something. Like an accident on a $40,000 car, say a $300 or $400 accident, it's nothing. Like, so I want those are the types of things, and why I came here is because I want to fix those things. Because it shouldn't be a penalty for the average Joe who got in an accident, $400 or $500 accident that somebody filed an insurance, and all of a sudden their $40,000 ride is worth $4,000 less. It's not fair, and I know life's not fair, but that's just the reality of things. I want a record to travel with that car, and with that vehicle history report. These are all things I want to fix. Like, everybody talks about what they want their exit to be, and I'm dead ass serious when I say this. I want my mom to be able to go to sell her car and have a history, and I just want her to get a square deal. I want to leave the industry better than when I got here. And I think it's come a million miles in my time here, but having a tool like this married into 15 different processes can help alleviate some of the mess that's out there.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of Meet Me at the Gate. I hope the conversation has helped to fuel your drive and equip you with insights to steer your team towards success. Remember, the road to success is always under construction. And until next time, keep your engines revving and your gas tanks full.